What's up, future fighters? It's Alex here from Buddyfight News Corner. Finally coming back from the DMV Dynasty Cup that just happened today, Saturday the 24th. It's the day after the 4-dimension set release, and I played Divine Guardians. If for those of you that don't know what Guardians do, which most of you should, but for those that don't, you start with 6 cards in hand, 1 card as your gauge, but your life becomes 12. And my buddy was Swoop Envoy Angelus. His skill is Blessing Pierce. When he enters the field, if you have a Give, Pardon, Forgiven on the field, or if you have 1 or less cards in your drop zone, draw a card. Blessing Pierce only activates once per turn. I played no size 3s, but I played 2 Returnal Envoy Aider, 4/2/6 with move. When it's attacked, you may return the card to hand. It was a good card, but it never really did anything special for me. After playing it, I'll talk about more about the changes to the deck I'll probably be making after the initial profile. And if you can't see this because the new gold foil, this is Perpetual Envoy Elixir. It's pay 1 gauge, but the top card of your deck into the soul. Everything on your field gets plus 2k, and then if you have 2 or less and drop, everything on your field gets an extra critical. Very key card in the deck. It allows everything, virtually everything in the deck to hit most of the meta cards, barring Ancient World. Most of Ancient World, I say, because I ran into Dragon Chiefs and this let everything hit. Size 1s, obviously 4 copies of the Buddy. I already went over what he did. 4 copies of Melody Envoy Sword Flute Dragon. He's a 3/2/1. When he enters the field, you may pay 1 gauge, search your deck for up to 1 Gate of Pardon and Forgiven, put him into your hand, and then shuffle the deck. So he's your gate searcher. Pretty key for, seeing your gate. Virtually 8 copies of your gate. And I played 3 copies of D&D Dragon Envoy Muriel. 4/1/3. Pay 1 gauge is the call cost. When it attacks, if you have 3 or less cards in your drop zone, it gets double attack. And when it attacks and destroys an opponent's monster, you gain 1 life. Size 0s. I played 4 copies of Blitz Envoy Shiny Bell. 2/1/2. Counter. Put this card from the field and a card from your drop into the bottom of your deck. And then top card of your deck into the gauge. You put her in the center and go Elixir, random size 1, swing, counter, and then item swing. Just for the 4 attack turns. And with Elixir, she's a 2 crit. 4 copies of Skypillar Armored Doria Marty. If you have no cards or your drop, this card gets crit +1. Free to equip, and act, you may put a card from the drop zone to the bottom of your deck. If you do, put the top card of your deck into the gauge, and you can only use this ability once per turn. So this is the item you want to see, because with Elixir, it pumps it up to 3 crit. So between Elixir, your Buddy, and Doria Marty, you have 9 damage. Between Elixir, Doria Marty, and Muriel, you have 10 damage. And 10 OTKs are really possible with this deck. I think I did OTK 1 person. Not during the Dynasty Cup, but during testing yesterday. And I play 3 copies of Nirvana Sword Heaven's Marius. If you have no cards on the drop, it gets +4 power. 2/2 free to equip. For spells, 4 copies of Heaven's Shield. You may only cast this during an attack on your opponent's turn, and if you do have a Guardian on your field. Nullify the attack and gain a life. If you have no cards in the drop zone, it can't be nullified. So standard life gaining shield. Though you can't play it during your opponent's first turn. 3 copies of Sky Dragon Divinity. Pay 1 gauge, 1 life. You may only cast this if you have 10 or less cards in your drop zone. Put 3 cards from the drop zone to the bottom of your deck in any order. If you put 3, draw 2 cards. Oops. Here we are at the gate. Gate of Pardon Forgiven. You're probably not going to read this because I'd never let my opponents never read it either. They always asked me what it did, but I could have lied. Nah. Anyway, put up to 3 cards from your drop zone to the bottom of the deck. If you put 3, gain 1 life. So you could put 1, 2, or 3, and then if you put the 3, you gain the life. If you have no monsters on your field and no cards in your drop zone, as its second effect, you could put a card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. If you do, you can search your deck for 1 Guardian monster and call it to the field by paying its call cost. Then shuffle. So it tutors out any Guardian as long as you're playing the deck properly and maintaining low cards and drop. The Shield of Justice will never shatter. Solomon Shield Clone, you can only cast it if it's during an attack and if it's not a link attack. 3 copies of Dragon Sky Regression. If you have a Guardian on the field, is the only way you could cast this. Return a size 2 or less from the field to the owner's hand. Then if you have nothing in the no cards in the drop zone, gain a life. So magical goodbye. That gains your life if you have nothing in the drop. 2 copies of Encouragement of the White Veil. Put a card from the bottom of, or from the drop zone to the bottom of the deck. Then you can either get a Guardian +3/+3 in counterattack, or you can give an item on your field penetrate and an extra critical. And then 3 impacts. Glee Big Wave. You may only cast this if your opponent has 3 or less life and no card in the center, and there are no cards in your drop zone. Pay 2 life, deal 3 damage. It cannot be nullified or reduced. I have mixed feelings about this. I'm going to do more testing with this, but there were OTKs involving this, and the Elixir Doria Marty, or Elixir item and random size one. Sideboard for 3 Justice Envoy Angel Frill. When a superhero and our Guardian enters the field after this card's on the field, remove a soul from an opponent's card on the field. And then when this attacks, if you have 5 or less cards in your drop zone, gain a life, and she has move. 2/2/1. 1 extra copy of Muriel for the wall decks. That way, Elixir, between her and Elixir, you can just beat over the soul guarding walls, like Shadow Shades. 2 copies of the Impact Monster, Avalon Benedict Ray. Pay 3 gauge and return a monster or your Gate of Forgiven to the bottom of the deck. And then when this card attacks, you put 3 cards from the bottom of the deck up to 3 cards from the drop zone to the bottom of your deck. If you put back 3, bounce everything on your opponent's field and deal 1 damage for each card that you bounced. So I sided this in against Pillar players, Hero World players to bounce their transforms. I'll get more into it during my tournament report, just soon after this. And then last but not least, for Sparkling Envoy Kirara Rain. Pay 1 gauge. When he enters, search your deck for up to 1 Gate of Forgiven. Add it to hand, shuffle the deck, and then if you have 2 cards or less in your drop zone, he gets +3 power. So I play him in the side over and side out the Dragon World one, the Flute Dragon, just for wall decks, because he hits 6 by himself. Meanwhile, the Dragon World one only hits 5 after Elixir's boost. He hits 8 after Elixir's boost. And that was the main deck. Major changes to the deck. Like I said, Eater didn't really do anything, and Angel Frill was amazing because all of the meta decks, barring 72 Pillars, runs Soul Guard. So removing Soul is really key to playing against the meta decks. So I'll probably replace Aether with at least 2 Angel Frill. Besides, they both have move. That's probably the biggest change to the deck. I might tinker around with the ratios a little bit more. The side deck now, once Angel Frill goes in, will probably change as well. Spells, I'm pretty happy with the spells. I might bump up the item count just from 7 to 8 just to see it more often. Because when you're using, if you're spamming Gate of Forgiven, you need to bump up your item count. If not, you could leave it. If you're confident, you can remember where your stack is, and you don't need to constantly spam Gate of Forgiven, then leave it at 6 to 7. But I'm bumping mine up to 8 just to see it a little more often. And that's about all I got left to say. Overall, fun time. Definitely will keep playing Guardians and hoping for more support come set 3. But we'll see what happens. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.